So once again, welcome everyone. I'm Taylor Ritchie over here on the customer success team at ActivePipe. What we are doing today with this month at ActivePipe is going to be covering topics that you all are interested in. So I know I've mentioned this a couple times. Sorry if you've heard it a couple times already, but start dropping those questions or topics into the Q&A and chat box. So we have some stuff to start off with. I've got a couple of topics that I will be covering to fill in some time, but really this time is for you. It's for you to get those questions answered that you want to know a little bit more about the product. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we have our first question in. So I'm going to start off with that one. So the first question was, can I set and adjust the parameters of someone's home search manually? How do I tell when emails have been sent to individual contacts? So when you are adjusting the parameters of someone's home search manually, you'll want to do this in the email builder. So in this situation, it seems like you're sending out an email specifically to one of your contacts. They have a very specific home search that they're looking to do. So what you'll want to do is actually come into the email builder itself. And when you go to create email, we'll have our property grid in this email here, and how you're going to set up those parameters and to really dive into what your customer is really looking for. You'll want to use this automation toggle here. So when you turn that automation toggle on, you'll then have the opportunity to define your properties. So a couple of things once you get into define your properties is first you have the basics that you can go through. And this is a good time to note a new update that we actually had roll out last week. And it's just the ability to be more flexible with property types. So this would be your first step in finding those parameters for your contact that they're looking for. If you had a property type and they were looking for just a single family home, you could come and uncheck all of those and click single family. You'll also see that we have some new options in here, being land, farms, industrial, warehouse, offices, retail. These are all going to be new to the product as of last week. But your first step would be to choose your property type. If they're open to any property type, then you can click off. Your listing type is going to be important as well. So if they're looking for leasing or to actually buy, you can define that under the listing types under here. Under listing status, we have our current, sold, and withdrawn. We'll have a coming soon or off market section coming soon as well. So you can portray those properties that are not yet on the market. So that's going to be a great tool that you can utilize as well. Your next step is just to do your zoning type here. You'll see that residential is going to be what the product is innately checked into. If you had commercial or land, you could do that as well. Now, outside of these basic property definitions that you can choose, you also have your order by date. So if you wanted to order by newest to oldest, which is going to be what is the provided option at top, you also have some other options being with price, date sold, date modified, suburb area. So you have the option to do that as well within the basics. Now, under our advanced sections, this is where we'll be able to start to get a little bit more granular with what exactly we're looking for. So we can choose within here if we want a price range. So if they have a price range that they are trying to reach, we can type that price range in here, say that their minimum was 100,000 and their maximum was 750. We could type that in. Some other options you have to choose from to define those properties more is the location of the property as well. So under the location, we'll see that we have the option to choose from a suburb, region, state, or postcode. zip code being a great one. So this is going to be how you kind of set that up manually. Now, something that is also great tool to use to kind of creating those parameters for the contact that you have is we have this area called Smart Match. And Smart Match is a great tool once ActivePipe starts to learn about your customer's profile as they start to interact with emails and as well within their contact definitions of what they want for a house. So all of their property requirements that they have, which we'll show you here in just a second. So Smart Match, what this is going to do is it's going to base the properties that we are searching for off of these requirements that we have listed here. So if, let's say, I was interacting with one of your emails and I was constantly clicking on properties that were in the price range of 500,000 and 750. And ActivePipe is going to acknowledge that and understand, begin to build a buyer profile for me and say, okay, Taylor really is interested in houses within the price range of 500,000 to 750. What Smart Match does, if you were to click on this, is it would only send me properties within my price range that I'm looking at within this area. So it's a really great tool that you can use based off of buyer preferences and based off of past interactions that customers have had within your emails, within the property feed specifically. So we're tracking what they're clicking on, and if they're clicking on multiple 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom houses, we're going to go ahead and make the assumption that this is something that they're really interested in. So you can choose the Smart Match on these requirements to only send out properties to that customer that meet what they are actually looking for. So inside outside of the Smart Match and the advanced and basic, these are really how you're going to define those property searches within what your customer wants. Now, I want to take a step back and go to a contact profile. Let's see. And I might actually have to add a contact. So I'm going to actually create a contact. This is a good rule of thumb as well. If you're not using a CRM integration, and you ever have a one-off contact that you want to add in very quickly, you would be able to just add that contact without having to do a general CSV report. I'm just going to enter in this information really quickly. Cool. So what we'll see when I actually go into my profile, my customer profile, is over here on the little dots, these 3 dots, if you click into this, and this is for those non-CRM users, once again, if you are a CRM user, all of this information is going to be grayed out, and that is because we're pulling that information directly from your CRM. Now, with the integration of preferences, if we are doing some work around building out the integration. So if you have a request to be pulling in those property preferences, those buyer preferences from your CRM, reach out to your customer success manager and they will be more than happy to help you get that set up on the CRM side. Those that are utilizing a CSV file, this is where you would come in and add those buyer preferences. So going back to what we were just looking at in the Smart Match, where we were price matching and we were matching based off of their bedroom requirements, you have the ability to enter in that information here. So if you are on Enterprise, you'll see that you have this classification area as well, so that you can indicate maybe their first home to buyer, so that you can start sending in content that would be relevant to what the home buying process looks like. For a location, we can just enter in our location here, and I'm going to put mine. And you'll see it's actually pulling directly from Google. For zoning types, say that I was strictly residential and I was looking for a single family home. you'll see that you have all of these options down here that are actually going to be consistent with the ones that we saw in the email builder. So for bedrooms, let's say my minimum was 3, my maximum was 5. Same with bathrooms. So you'll see that you can start entering in all of these preferences that you'll then be able to utilize when you are sending out those emails. Oops. I'm looking for a really big lot here. And then you can also put in that listing type too. So not necessary that you enter in all of that information for a buyer preferences, but even a little bit of information is going to be helpful for you to start automating these emails and automating the properties that are going out to these customers based off of what they actually want. So maybe start thinking about your current sphere that you have, and that information that you already have for some of those customers. We can get that information into Active Pipes so that you can start creating those emails and really being able to smart match what their preferences are, into the actual email itself. So we'll go back to here just to show you one more time. So if we have that grid under define properties, you'll choose your basics, then you'll go into your advanced where you can get some more information. But what we're really focusing on here is using Smart Match based off of those buyer preferences that we have within the tool. Great. All right. Let's see. Second note to that question, how do I tell which emails have been sent out to individual contacts? So you will see that in your reporting side. So I'm going to go back into a different demo account that has some emails already sent out previously. Okay. And under your campaigns section here, if you go to a finished campaign and you click on this view report button here, we're going to see a list of how many emails were sent. You'll have your interactions within the contacts interacting with those emails and content. You'll have your views, your total views, and your unique views, and your metrics. Now, if you are looking for an exact breakdown of the contacts that have been sent to, another way that you would be able to do this is when you're creating a campaign. This one that I was just showing you was sent to all contacts. So all of your contacts received this email. Now, another way that you would tell is if you went to your tags, and then you can filter your contacts by those tags. So let's say, in theory, let's actually see if we have a campaign with one of these in there. All contacts again. Let's see here. Okay, so in this campaign section, I'll just build one out really quickly so that we can kind of get the idea of where I'm coming from. So in this section here, when you are choosing what contacts to send it to, and this can be done in the campaign builder or through the quick send within the email builder. So let's say that we were actually sending this to, and I'm going to type in buyer, our buyer tag. So under our buyer tag, what we would be able to do, say this was a campaign that was already sent out, you could come to your contacts, and I'm going to go into a user section because I was in a admin, which do not have contacts, good rule of thumb as well. So under our contacts list here, if we were searching for the contacts that were sent out by a certain tag, you'll have that contact list, and you can go to these filters where you can enter in this filter for the tag to see who in your contact list has this tag. That way you can cross-check if you wanted to know the exact names of who that campaign was sent out to. You can also download the CSV. You can add multiple tags within here. So say that you actually sent this out to your buyers and your primary sphere. You would be able to add that in there as well. And you'll see who has those contacts. We'll see that I actually was on all of these. So what all of these means in the filter, this is an all-encompassing. So this is an and statement. Think of this as an and statement. So what my filter was for right here is if a contact has the tag buyer and the tag primary sphere. Now, if I was looking for any of these, which in the case that we are sending out a campaign to multiple different tags, we would want to see who has both of these. So this is an all-encompassing one. So if we apply that filter, it's going to show us those folks that have both the buyer tag and the primary sphere tag for choosing any of these. Because one of these customers could have both tags or one could have just one, and we want to make sure that we see a full list of who that was sent to. Okay, great question. All right, moving on to the second question that we've had. With sending out properties coming soon, how is ActivePipe pulling that information and properties? So we're pulling that directly from the MLS. So the coming soon section, if your MLS supports any of those off-market or coming soon properties, then we have integrated that portion into ActivePipe. Now, if you're using an internal tool like Dash, for say, there needs to be a conversation with your CRM or your CSM about how those properties are pulling in. I know that is kind of a manual setup, and sometimes you want to make sure that you're not having duplicate property information in Dash that's pulling into ActivePipe. So strategize with your CSM on what those coming soon property looks like with your current CRM, and it will be live for those that have the ability to do so. Great first two questions. Anyone else in the crowd have a topic that they want to discuss today? Don't be shy. All right. Well, I am going to just go and do a little bit of showing of how you can do a couple of other things. Oh, looks like we have a question. I will pause that. Okay, inform agents not to send mass email lists. That includes all agents. I get way too many emails from agents that target clients, not agents with marketing information. So this is an interesting comment. What I would say for this, if agents are sending mass email lists, mass emails to lists, all lists, like the all contacts within the campaign, that's never really a best practice of ActivePipe. So what you should really drive home, if you are on the marketing side on this call, this is a good time for us to kind of just discuss how you are portraying ActivePipe as a tool, and how you're guiding your agents to coach. If you're an agent on this call, this is great because you can kind of listen to the importance of segmenting your contacts. So the first layer of segmenting is with tags. So in our contact list, when you're importing contacts, or if you have a CRM, you have that ability to tag your different contacts so that you can send out the relevant information to them and not just e-blast everyone that's in your sphere. So what's really important is to have these contacts segmented, right? So you'll see under a contact profile, we have a list of all of the tags that is for that specific contact, that potential customer. And this just allows you to send out the information that they are going to want to be most interested in. So when you are tagging and you're going through your sphere and you're thinking about the different groups of contacts that you have within there, notate that. And do it within ActivePipe if you're using a CSV, or do it within your CRM, and it's going to come back into ActivePipe. But this just allows you to send that most relevant information to each of those users without spamming them, in a sense. So what you can do, you can always add a new tag into the contact profile. You can do it at the time that you upload the CSV. But when you're in the campaign, you'll see that when you go to send out an email, this all contacts button really should never be utilized. I will never, ever suggest someone to send to all contacts unless they're in an account and it's just all internal employees as contacts in that account. Then we could suggest that that would be okay in that part. But we always want to utilize this section so that we can send to our specific tags and audiences. So think of this, and say that we had created a just listed email. And in this just listed email, we want to send this to our buyers or to our primary sphere, however you have that group segmented. So what we could do is we could choose our tag to send to just our buyers. And that way, when we are creating that campaign to go out, it's only going to send to our buyers. And this alleviates the problem of people unsubscribing from your content because it's not relevant to them. Though sometimes unsubscribes are good because it helps you clean up that database. But if you're sending them content that's not relevant to what they need to see, so if they're a seller, they probably don't want to see what's new on the market. They may have indicated that they do want to see what's new on the market, so they know what's relevant to what's going on around them, if they have their house listed at the correct price, whatever. That could be a certain edge case. But majority of the time, sellers don't really want to know new listings in their area. They would be more interested in just solds in the area, so they can see what that price point that it sold at, what it was listed at, and be able to kind of cross-check and understand. They may be interested in your newsletters, but a seller is not going to be interested in a just listed campaign. So really just utilizing these tags and audiences, which I'll jump over to here really shortly, but utilizing this as a way to segment and really get down to the most important information to those customers. That way they are interested in what they're reading. Now, with our audiences, I do want to share some information on audiences, as it's a different layer of tagging. So we have our tags. We have that first set of grouping your contacts and being able to segment them within ActivePipe. Now we also have audiences, and audiences are an additional layer to tags that you can still send out information to these groups of people in the audiences. So I'll just walk through the process of creating an audience. So we would go to create an audience. We would name our audience what we wanted it. Now I'll just name it 1112 for today. And then we'll see something very similar, our filter section, as we saw in our contacts when we're looking at our contacts. So if you drop down through this filter, you'll see that you have a lot of different options to filter by. So say that we wanted to filter by a tag, and that tag being a buyer. And then you also wanted to filter by preferences. So let's see our buyers that have a price preference. is equal to, let's say 950. Now, once again, with these all and any, all of these means that the contacts that are showing right now would have both the buyer tag and a price preference of 950. So for most audiences that you're creating, if you're trying to layer the information that we're pulling from, you'll want to stay on these, all of these. Now, let's say that we were creating a campaign to send out to any buyer or anyone with this buyer preference. You could use this or statement, the any statement here, to do that as well. Now, once you have your audience saved, and I'm actually going to change this as buyer 950, and I'm going to save that audience. So what we'll see when we come back into the campaign builder, if we're creating like a luxury listing campaign for a new listed luxury property, we could come in here and we'll see that our audience is going to be saved in here. So it's only going to send out to those folks that are both a buyer and have a preference of 950 and higher. Okay. All right. Next question. I'd like to know about how and what CRM Salesforce link into ActivePipe and best practices when working between the two. All right, well, let me pull up some more information for you. And I will talk about Salesforce specifically, but I'm also going to go to our page here and take us to our integrations page. And I'm just going to drop this in the chat. If this is something that is interesting to you or something you want to know more about, please feel free to go on here and check out what CRMs we do integrate with. If you click, see all, it's going to give you the full list of all of those. Now for Salesforce specifically, I'm just pulling up my notes on Salesforce so I can give you the most accurate answer. So please bear with me while I log in here. All right. Okie dokie. So for Salesforce, what we do is we connect contacts within Salesforce that are coming in to ActivePipe. Now, within those contacts, we have the ability to tag and segment those contacts coming in. This can be made into a two-way street. So the information that we would be pushing back into Salesforce is going to be the clicks, opens, and sends. We can also push back those emails that are sent by default. So out of the box with the Salesforce CRM, it's not going to be a two-way street, but we can set up that integration. If you have an IT team, we can connect them with our IT team to make it more of a fluid system. So really what you want to think about when you're utilizing CRMs and ActivePipe is your CRM as your source of truth for your database. So any information on contacts, all of that should be handled within the CRM that you're working within. That information is going to come back into ActivePipe, and it will allow you to utilize that information when creating emails and sending out content to your contacts list. But we can also set up a two-way street for some of those CRMs. So in specific, what has a two-way street right now is going to be our copper integration, our Salesforce can be made to be a two-way street. MoxieWorks is going to be a two-way street, and Close is going to be a two-way street. And we're working on a two-way street, meaning pushbacks of information into follow-up boss as well. So it can be a great tool to use in tandem with the CRM. CRMs should really, again, just be your source of truth for your contact information. And ActivePipe should be viewed as that email marketing platform where we can, in hindsight, push some of that information back about the emails, how many emails were sent, if they were opens, clicks. It's really going to depend on which CRM that you're interested in and what that connection looks like. So if you need further clarification on your specific CRM or one that you're looking to purchase, reach out to your customer success manager and they'll let you know the exact flows for both of the incoming information and information that we're pushing back into that CRM. Okay. Great. So we have a next question. Can you walk through how to set up campaigns for these buyer preferences? Yes, I can absolutely do that. So we would want to start in the email section. And we're going to create an email, and I'm just going to choose a random template. Okay, and I'm going to name this test. Great. So first things first is for us to set up those parameters. So we'll want to go in to define our properties. We'll choose our property types. Of course, this is not working now in my demo account, but we would come under these smart match requirements. So this is where those buyer preferences that we're entering in, this is where it's going to acknowledge it within the product once again. So say that we wanted to use smart match for all of their requirements. So it's going to pull a matter of what we have for that specific contact and utilize that to send out. Now, something that's scary to a lot of folks is if this area says it looks like there's no properties that match your criteria, this is normal. So think about it as we are in the email builder and we are asking the email builder to match requirements based off of contacts, but we have not indicated which contacts that we are sending this to yet. So it is normal for this to show up that there are no properties that match the criteria because we are going to check at the time of send based off of the contacts, their requirements, match that with your MLS, and then pull that property into the email itself at the time of send. So just a side note there, you will set up your requirements based off of that smart match, and you'll go ahead and click save. Now, when you're ready to send out a campaign based off of those buyer preferences, is you'll come into that campaign section, and you'll choose the contacts that you want to send that to. So let's say that this was going to our buyers and where to, oh, here it is, buyers and primary sphere. Okay. Then we would come to set our date and time. You can even have this repeat on a weekly basis. If you are on auto or above, you have the ability to repeat the schedule so that this is sending out on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, whatever it may be, your preference. So you would enter in that date and time here. And then you would want to choose that email to send out. So we have our TMAP example from today, and that email, if we wanted to go ahead and double check, we could come in here, make sure that our requirements were still in there. Cool, we're good to go. And we can go back to our campaign. So this is what the campaign would look like for that buyer preferences. Your next step would just be to save and activate, and then it's going to send those relevant properties to the contacts that you have indicated by matching off of their buyer preferences. Now, another way that you could set this up, and we're getting kind of into a different portion of the campaign builder, is we could say that on subscription or if a tag changed. And what this means is if someone in your database was recently added as a buyer, then we can tell this campaign to go to anyone that is currently added as a buyer and has been added as a buyer recently. So you could save and activate this campaign, and you could have this campaign running for a year, let's say. And anytime you added a new buyer contact, that contact is going to receive this email based off of their buyer preferences. So this is a good way for you to kind of really get into that set and leave it attitude, creating campaigns that are going to be triggered and running based off of different requirements that you have set previously. Okay. Any other questions? Great questions this far. All right. I am just going to go show a few things within the email builder that aren't as widely known, but could be helpful for you if you're really design centric and you're looking to create an email that has a really good look. So I'm just going to come in to this campaign here. And a couple things that I want to show you are just text panel options. So we'll see, we have our oh, and I already had one in here. We have our text panel here, and most folks know you can come in here, you can bold, italicize, change the font color if you wanted to. All of your fonts are going to be located here. Something that's really interesting that some people aren't aware of is you can actually turn this text box into, oops, and I cannot text today, turn this text box into a button. So if you type out contact me and you highlight that and you click this little square with an arrow here, it's going to give you the option to turn this into a button. So say that we wanted this to actually go to activepipe.com. We can click continue, and you now see that we have a button in this text holder. Now, something else that's really neat within this text panel is if you click on that gear icon, you'll see that you can innately change the amount of columns that are within this. So let's say that we actually wanted to have 3 buttons side by side. And as you know, if we are using this button in here, it's just going to have it centered, but we can have a recreate what this would look like with side by side. Just going to copy this for the next one. So this could be interesting if you were doing some work where you weren't using the smart feed option and you were actually utilizing the blog. You were trying to recreate, what it would look like to have a blog post within, or you wanted to portray 3 different properties in a different format than using the property panel. You can align it so that you have the images laid on top here, and then this contact me button that is going to be right under it. So this just allows you some flexibility within the text panel that you can actually link out text and make it a button within this text panel. See this being used a lot for folks that have like a blog post. They're recreating the image of like a blog post to say there's some information and we wanted to actually change this to read more, you could leak out the blog post here. Oops. That way it looks kind of like it does if you were to utilize a blog post feature. Just like this. Some cool stuff within there. Let's see. It looks like we still don't have questions. What am I going to cover next? Let's talk about the sending settings and what you can do. Actually, that's not true. I'm actually going to show you how we can do some fun stuff with these text panels. So say you're using this to add in some additional content. Maybe it's a blog post, maybe it is just some general information about what's going on in your area. A really neat tool within the gear icon that we can do is rearrange kind of how this is set up. So say that we wanted to have these images and text kind of offset to be able to split what it looks like. So you'll see right now the image is on the left, text on the right. You can do image on the right and text on the left. You also see that you have the option to do some different column splitting. So right now the photo is 50% of the column and the text is 50% of the column. You can change that to be a little bit different, and I'll show you what that looks like in a different one. So we'll see that our alignment kind of went off and it looks like a nice little tic-tac-toe board or chessboard, whatever you want to call it. But it just allows you to change the dynamic so it's not just all photos and text on the same panel, same side of the panel. Let's say that we wanted to change the column split so that the image was smaller and the text was bigger. We can do that by utilizing this column split section here. Say that we wanted it a lot bigger and less text, you can choose to do it that way as well. So this is a great tool to use if you want to kind of recreate the look. Maybe the image wasn't as important and the text is more important. You have the option and flexibility to go in here and do that. You also can change your image inset, so making it kind of less of a padding in between the outside and the inside of the panel itself, as well as the padding for the actual text and image column. So you'll see we have some padding on this one, whereas this one is going to be flush to each of the ends. If you wanted to add just a little bit of padding, you could absolutely do that as well. So just some ways that you can really get design centric and start utilizing the text and images to kind of recreate what exactly you want your email to look like. All right. Any other questions? Okie dokie. I'm going to cover one last thing just about communication sharing and what that looks like. So if you are on the marketing side of things and you are creating content and you really want to share that content, even on the agent side of things, sharing that content to other users just so that they can kind of have something to start off of. If we go to create an email, and let's say we wanted a property grid in here, and we had our definitions defined. Oops, I'm going to take that off for the sake of this. All right, so let's say we saved this email, and you just saw that I did a number one no with an active pipe, which is trying to save without entering in that subject line. So something you can do once you have created an email is if you have communication sharing turned on, then you can share this content to anybody else that's in your organization. And this just allows you to, if you're on the marketing side, to create content to share down to those agents so that they can utilize it. But it also allows agents to share ideas with each other. If they worked really hard on a really nice newsletter design and they wanted to share it with someone else that they worked on a team with, they could transfer it by choosing to share with a specific user. So let's say they actually wanted to share it with this person. They could add it. And I'm actually going to do, let's do Clint. You can add to share it. And when you click next, you can also choose to notify those users that you're sharing an email with them. So they'll have a notification in their inbox that content has been shared with them. And you can also write them a little message in here if you wanted to. But you go to share, and then let's say that I went into that user's account that I shared that email with. It's not going to live in the emails list, but something you'll see is when you go to create an email, under shared emails, we have that email that we created. So it's going to live under the shared emails, under the templates, so that they can go in and still make their own twist to this in order to be able to portray the exact message that they want to. Okay. Let's see some other questions I've gotten recently. Let's see. Something that some folks don't know about, and it's just good to know within the tool. Within the email builder itself, we have these 3 dots up here. And if you click on those 3 dots, it's actually going to show you what those sender details are. So you can always double check, make sure that it's coming from that correct email name and it's going to the correct email name that's coming back to their inbox. So just a good rule of thumb to take a look at that if you're interested in seeing what your sending details are. We have the opportunity to do some changes of this on the back end of things. So if you ever need to change your to and from address, then we can help you with that internally. Okie dokie. Alrighty then. Any last minute questions before we wrap up today? Okie dokie. Well, I thank everyone for coming to this month at Active Pipe today. Thank you for asking such great questions, and I hope that we were able to get them answered today. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to your customer success manager. They'll be more than happy to help. Also, as per usual, I'm going to show you where you can find some additional resources for Active Pipe. If you go to activepipe.com, under our resources tab, everyone on here is familiar with our webinars tab because you're here today, but all of the past webinars, all of those past team apps are going to be located down here. So if there was one that you really wanted to go to, it didn't fit in with your schedule that day, no worries. We record them all and we post them down here for you to take a look at when you are available. Secondly, under our resources, we have our knowledge base right here. And our knowledge base is going to be a great question to ask, a great place to ask questions. And we covered creating an audience today. Some of you may not have explored creating an audience prior to speaking about it today, but if you click audiences into the search bar, it's going to give you a great one-pager on how you create your audience. And this goes for anything that is active within ActivePipe. So if there is a portion of the tool that maybe you're just falling back a little bit on, please feel free to utilize our knowledge base. It's very robust. and we update it frequently. Anytime we have a new product released, there's going to be a knowledge base article on that. So it's a really great place to go for your initial questions to see if we can get them answered there. Obviously, your customer success managers are always here to help you in addition to that, but this is a great place to do some self-learning. Alrighty. Well, thank you again for joining today. I hope that we got all your questions answered. If you have not signed up for the upcoming team apps of this month, please take a look at them. We're going to be doing a big announcement on a new offering that we have next week. This is about custom newsletters, so would love to see you all come to that as well and learn about how ActivePipe is going to be helping brokerages create custom newsletters. Thanks again, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your Friday and a wonderful weekend. I'll talk to y'all soon.